There have been a large number of early round draft picks that have failed us this year, or maybe we failed ourselves. What did we miss? Fred Zinke and I will discuss that coming up next on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Jeff Erickson here with Fred Zinke. As always, our podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks and So Rare. Thank you for your sponsorship. What did we miss? There are so many early round draft picks that have really skewed our team, really skewed, skewered, you name it. Whatever they did to our teams, they messed them up real good. And there's a lot of them that are not injury based that have really let us down too. Fred and I thought it'd be a good time to kind of go through some of these early round picks, about 10 of them, and say what really went wrong, what did we miss, and what should we think about these players going forward. Fred, what's going on? How you doing?
Yeah, I mean, what could be better at the start of a great week of baseball than to talk about all the most negative things that have happened so far this season to our fantasy teams? But this is a good time for takeaways on some of these players. And are there big picture takeaways? Are there lessons to learn? And is there hope for them? So hopefully this will be able to help some people because you can have a really good team but still have one of these players on it. In fact, I have a really good team with Julio Rodriguez on it. Like, you can have a good team with some of these guys on it.
Yeah, well, I don't like hearing that, you can overcome this, because I haven't.
And the ones that too many of them.
Yeah, not too many of them right now. And I've lamented it before. I'll do it again. Every day, Gunnar Henderson punishes me for passing on him and going for Francisco Lindor instead. Every day, yesterday included. It just did Gunnar Henderson punish me? Yes, he did.
Yep, I feel the same way. I passed on him for Jose Altuve in a lot of leagues, but Altuve's doing great, but not quite Gunnar Henderson great. So
so that's not bad though. I mean, I went Lindor. I mean, that's the thing that really is a killer. Like, if it's one thing to mess up and you got a pretty good player still,
I was surprised when I was looking at the earned auction value calculator that Lindor, like, he's on our list today, but he wasn't like a total. He has some homers, he has some steals. The batting average is a killer, but he has some homers, he has some steals. Like, for him to be a $12 player on the list, or no, he's down to 10 this morning or this afternoon. But he definitely hasn't been good, but he has not been Corbin Carroll.
No, he has not. And so there is that.
Yeah.
So let us start going through this list. And yes, Dr. Doom, Michael Harris is on our list. So we'll get to him. But you have to wait until third round bus. That's a little bit lower down on our list here, but we'll get to him. Starting right off at the top. Many fine people drafted Julio Rodriguez second overall in early drafts, third overall, fourth overall. And it's been really painful right now. It's the same thing as last year in the case of Julio Rodriguez, though. What is going on with him, and what's our hope for him going forward?
Yeah, so some of the things are going fine with Julio, right? Like, the steals are there. He's got 9. He's on pace for about 30. That's fine. It's a little off last year's 37, but whatever. That's fluctuations. Batting average is 274. He's brought that up a lot recently, which is great. His career average is 278. It's just there's no power. He's got 2 home runs. So when I look at why he has 2 home runs, his barrel rate is way down. His average X velocity is actually fine, but his his fly ball rate, which is usually not great, is even down a bit. He's hitting a ton of line drives, which explains why he's hitting for average. But basically, he's just not barreling as many balls. Some of his StatCast status, his X slug is way higher than his slug. So, like, there's some reasons to believe he should be hitting for a little more power. But I'm inclined to say that Julio is going to be fine. Like, maybe he's not going to hit 32 home runs like he did last year, but maybe he hits 25. And I guess 25 feels like a lot at this point. I don't know. I think Julio is going to be fine going forward. I would still draft him in the first round if we were drafting.
You answered my next question. Is where do you draft him? Obviously, like, I think I'm going to put Bobby Witt. I would say Mookie. I would say Shohei.
Yeah.
I still probably I might even do Freddie Freeman ahead of him now. I would definitely do Ellie ahead of him now. Well, maybe not definitely. I don't definitely.
No, not definitely. Probably Acuna too.
Yeah.
Gunnar Henderson.
Oh, Gunnar Henderson. I do
probably
ahead of.
Would.
Yeah. I think.
But after that, he's probably in play for me. Judge Soto, those 2 guys.
Yep.
Soto's off to a really nice start, but I still think he gets in the first round. I'm always thinking 15-team leagues. I still think he gets in the first round. So, yeah. So, anyways, he's been disappointing. He hasn't totally killed your team. I don't think there's much takeaway here, like as far as like an error, and like he had played 2 major league seasons and been great in both of them from a fantasy perspective. So there wasn't a lot of reason to think that he wouldn't be good this year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I agree. Well, I take Kyle Tucker ahead of Julio too.
Yeah.
And without any hesitation, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
He's the forgotten guy. He's
Yeah,
third
he
overall in the earned auction value, but kind of Todd Zola is like screaming from the rafters, Kyle Tucker.
Yeah,
yes,
for sure.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think that with Julio, it's tough though. I mean, I have where did I get him? Was it Scarf? I think I got Julio. Yeah. And the good news is Julio is running a little bit at least, although I think that's dried up a little bit lately too. I think a lot of his stolen bases came early, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, last stolen base was on May 8th for Julio also. So it's kind of frustrating, but
yeah. I just feel like this month he's hitting 301 and we're well into May. Like it's like he's hitting 301 this month. Like you said, he's only got the 2 steals. I don't know. I just think once the power comes around a bit, he'll be fine.
Strikeout percentage is up to 28.1%. It was 24.5 last year.
Yeah.
A little disturbing. But it's really the lack of barrels. Again, it's 7% barrel rate right now.
From 12 last year, 13 the year before. So that's the big dip, right?
Yeah.
Like little fluctuations, like strikeout rate moving like 3%, things like that, walk rate 1% or 2, like all these things are going to fluctuate up and down. It's just, looking for things that are dramatically different. Because if nothing's dramatically different, you would think that eventually it'll all even out.
Does last year influence your outlook on him this year in so much that he struggled almost in the same exact way for the first 6-7 weeks of the season?
Yes, but it probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
But it does. That's just probably the human element to like inside of me, but it probably shouldn't influence it.
Yep. We're going to hit a bunch of these strugglers, but first I thought we'll take care of some business right away. Talk about our friends from SoRare. Have you ever dreamed of stepping into the shoes of a general manager? Welcome to SoRare MLB, a groundbreaking fantasy baseball game where you call the shots. I recall Julio was prominently featured in their TV ads before vis-a-vis Juan Soto. I think everyone's taking Juan Soto right now on that one there. Take charge and make your managerial mark by collecting officially licensed digital player cards of your favorite MLB stars. These aren't just any cards. They're your ticket to compete for over $1 million in total cash rewards and other amazing prizes. Imagine winning VIP trips to the MLB 2024 All-Star Game or getting your hands on signed merchandise from top MLB players. Here's how it works. Use your cards to set your lineup each game week. Real-world plays like hits, strikeouts, homers will power your team's performance. Climb the leaderboards and snag weekly wins, from cash prizes to more cards and unforgettable experiences. But there's more. Build an iconic collection of your favorite teams and players to unlock gameplay bonuses and exclusive rewards. The rarer the card, the higher your score, and the bigger your edge in competitions. And when you're ready to trade, the SoRare Marketplace offers a vibrant community of managers. Engage in live auctions, make instant buys, or trade cards peer-to-peer. Starting is absolutely free. Draft your first team of common cards today and feel the thrill of competition as you climb the ranks to baseball mastery. What are you waiting for? Join SoRare MLB today. Transform your passion for baseball into a quest for glory and get rewarded for your baseball savvy. Sign up today with the link in the description and get 50% off your first pro cards up to $50. It's your passion rewarded. All right, we're talking about early letdown guys. Let's jump into Corbin Carroll, the next guy on our list, and a guy that we've spent considerable time talking about already, Fred.
Yeah, I feel like we could talk Corbin Carroll to death because we already have, and so many people have, just because he's been so incredibly bad. I think the takeaways are obviously the shoulder, whether we know it or not, but the shoulder would have been a good reason to drop him down your draft list far enough to just not take him, which I didn't do. Again, we don't know that, but it seems like also, how about this? Even if we don't say it's for sure the shoulder, we do have a sample size of his power disappearing in the second half of last season. And we don't have a long track record of major league success with him. So for someone who was going in the top 5, top 6, top 7 of drafts, we're talking about someone who hit for power in the majors for half a year, and and had a possible injury concern too. So looking back on it, I feel like I was maybe I was too optimistic on him. Like I said, even if we don't know factor in the shoulder, there's just compared to guys who went after him in some drafts, like Kyle Tucker, like Mookie Betts, like Juan Soto, like there's just not the track record of success with Carroll because the power went away in the second half.
Yeah, not even like the track record of Ronald Acuna, who, by the way, has been a letdown, who we could have probably spent more time talking about too while we're at it. We don't know if it's necessarily the shoulder. I think RotoBook Cooker points to a couple of reasons about that. Why would his bat speed metrics be in the 82nd percentile? I mean, I don't know what they were last year, but that doesn't sound terrible. He signed a long-term contract. Why would he say it's fine? These are good questions.
Yep. Yeah.
Don't have the answer to.
Yeah. Maybe it's not really the shoulder, but either way, his power, this power dip didn't come out of nowhere because he didn't hit for power in the second half of last season.
Yeah.
So that was a concern. Now he's not even stealing bases at the rate that I was hoping, but I guess that's because he's not getting on base at the rate that I was hoping. His StatCast data suggests that he should be better across the board than he has been, obviously, but still not what he was. It's not suggesting that he should be as effective as he was last year because the exit velocity is down.
You know, he had that big game in Cincinnati about 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, okay, here we go. He's starting to break out of it. Everybody that was being patient with him is going to get rewarded. And that just hasn't happened. Last 7 days, 143, 182, 333. Last 21 days, 191, 253, 324. He hasn't had a stolen base in the last 21 days. I mean,
I know it is. Some of the stuff with him is really weird. Like strikeout rates down, walk rates up, like all these things, like not everything's bad, but like, why is he not stealing bases? I've almost quit following Carroll on the daily box scores because I find it so infuriating. But this is a guy who used to be like I thought Carroll could be the best base stealer in baseball this year. Now Ellie's really blown that out of the water, but not seeing that part coming, I thought he could steal bases with anyone because he did last year with almost anyone last year. So, but he's getting on base and he's not running at all. It's a really weird phenomenon. And they've moved him back up in the lineup. He was down at the bottom of the lineup. Now they got a little spark from him, so they put him back at the top. But still not really getting anywhere.
Yeah, I'm looking to see his last stolen base, and it was
forever ago.
April 17th.
Over a month. Why is he gone a month without stealing a base? Like in the last month, he's been in everybody who has him's lineup every game. 1 homer, 0 steals, first round pick. He's the worst pick. He's almost worse than Strider. At least you could replace Strider.
Yeah, I don't get this. I don't think this. Maybe it's not the shoulder, but there's something. You know, it's not just how he's getting pitched. Everybody gets pitched challengingly after a while. Unless it's just like such a bad hole that he can't correct it and it's so overwhelming. But how did it not get discovered for so long?
And there's no
struggle
team context to it. This isn't. We see sometimes this happened with Lindor once with the Mets, where just the whole team was doing so poorly that almost like every player got sucked into it.
Yeah,
just the team struggling. Arizona's been fine offensively.
Yeah,
despite him. Like Arizona sits, about top 10 in the league, I think, in OPS. 10th in the league in OPS. Like offensively, and that's with him clogging up often the leadoff spot, hitting, under 200. So it's not like the whole team's just struggling and he can't escape it. Like other guys, Ketel Marte's playing great this year, for example. Hits right beside him in most games.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I don't think. And if it's a World Series hangover, why isn't anybody else in Arizona having a World Series hangover? I don't buy that either.
Yeah.
They
haven't, and if it is the shoulder, they haven't shut him down, which you'd think like when we went into May with a sub 200 batting average, if they thought his shoulder just was barking a bit, even that they would just be like, you know what, take 2 weeks off.
Unless they just he's not, they ask him and he's saying, no, it's not bothering me, but it really is, or something like that.
Yeah. He's never gone for tests on it that we know of. Right. Yeah. So I think they would divulge.
So what are you doing with him? Do you have him in you have him in labor, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'd be open to trading him, but you and Scott talked about this a little bit yesterday, but with someone, but like I think all the offers I get, well, I don't know. I'd be open to trading him, but I think all the offers I get would be so crummy that probably the only way to turn my season around is to hope that he gets back on track.
Yeah.
I would totally be open to trading him. If you're listening to this and you're in my labor league, feel free to make me an offer, but I think the offers would be crummy.
And the problem is for me is I might be that guy, except power is my problem. How does that help me? I don't know. I think that it's hard to find a fair value for him too. Someone had asked in the chat, and this wouldn't be a trade. This would just be a start sit situation. Are you crazy to play Joe Adell over Carroll right now until Carroll figures it out?
I'd be fine with benching Carroll in any league that you feel like you have. So I had him benched in a 15-team league 1 week from like a Monday to Thursday. And then I ended up activating him at the last minute because someone else got hurt on my team.
Okay.
So, but as of there was a couple weeks ago where I forget if they were playing the Dodgers, but it was someone, maybe it was Seattle. I don't know. There was some time they were playing a team. It was one of those teams, like a team that can pitch. Yeah. And he hadn't done anything for a long time. And I was like, forget it. I'm going to play guys like Alex Verdugo over him. He's playing so poorly. It's just for 3 days. It's not going to kill my season. So, right. But then at the last minute, someone on my team ended up being day to day, and I put him back in, and he didn't do anything while he was in anyway. So, right. But no, I think it's totally fine to bench him if you have options, especially even in a 12-team league, you should have options.
That's the problem. In a 15-teamer, you're not going to have options.
It's pretty unlikely.
Yeah, I was just looking at your roster. It'd be Trevor Larnach. That would be your option.
Right. And they were facing some lefties at the start of this week, so I couldn't use him.
Right. But the fact is, you looked at it. I mean, you thought about it.
If Larnach was facing three bad righties, maybe I would do it. Yep.
Yeah. Especially because now with labor, we can make roster changes on Fridays now,
That's
like
right.
the NFBC.
Yeah.
So we can do that. All right. Let's look at the next player on our list. Yordan Alvarez. This is one where
terrible.
Yeah. It doesn't quite. Yeah, it's just he's not returning first round value. Yordan Alvarez now hitting 260, 8 homers, 20 RBI, 25 runs scored, 1 stolen base. Yay, 1 stolen base. But that pales in comparison to what he's done in previous years, especially the average is really kind of hurtful there. It's not like Yordan Alvarez is even like striking out a ton either. This is, he's a little bit more, but I'm just looking at his stat page here. Strikeout percentage this year it's actually down. It's not even more. It's down. It's 17.6%. He's healthy this year too. That's the thing that's kind of caught my eye is he's just been kind of so far.
Yep, that's a good way to describe him. His average exit velocity is down, but only a very small amount. His barrel rate's down like significantly. It's about 12% from 18 last year, 21 the year before that, 16 the year before that. That probably explains a lot. As far as why the power is missing. But overall, he's had not a great season BABIP wise. It's 281. The previous years it was 300 or higher. I think he could easily, right now, he's a little disappointing. He's on pace for basically 22 homers, 22 homers and a 260 average. So that's pretty crummy from a guy you took at the end of the first round. But I feel the same way about him that I feel about Julio to a different degree, but I feel like at the end of the year, it'll be there. Like at the end of the year, he'll be hitting 280 or 290 and he'll have, if maybe he gets to 30 homers, maybe he gets to 28, something like that. But I think it'll be there.
Yeah. I don't think anybody is looking to trade him either. That's the thing. Maybe if they're really dying for stolen bases, they try to do some sort of swap. Yordan Alvarez for Corbin Carroll. All the Alvarez people say no to that, actually. I think so. Yeah, I think so. I would say for sure. So, Alvarez is someone, if we were redrafting his draft positions, probably gone down like a few spots, maybe not even a full round, but probably gone down a few spots. He's just more like a little disappointing. Maybe someone, if you were in a trading league and you needed to trade for power and you put in a reasonable offer for him, like maybe this, you know what I mean? Like this is the time where you could get a reasonable return, like a reasonable deal for Alvarez. Right. And to your point about drafting again, I did draft Alvarez in the Yahoo Friends and Family draft. It's not working out well for me yet, but it could still.
No. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I barely put him on the list. I could have left him off.
Sure. I could see that there. Absolutely. Okay. Let's look at the next player on our list. Actually, we'll look at Matt, a couple of Braves, 3 Braves, 4 Braves in a row. A lot of Braves.
What happened to the Braves?
Yeah, I know. Well, I think that's.
Is there a takeaway there?
Yes, there might be, but before we do that, let's do a quick note from our friends at Prize Picks. Uh, Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states across the country. It's really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. You just pick more or less on two or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. You can jump in on tonight's Pacers Celtics game if you want. You can take a look at the hockey. You can take a look at baseball, obviously, and you can find your selection that way there. And also, when you're trying to build that your selections, use RotoWire's picks tool, and we have it all customized for Prize Picks. Lots of different ways you can even track how the picks the projections have moved. That's what the market is doing to those picks. So there's a lot of ways you can kind of work with that and try to let the winnings roll in there. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Download the app today and use code ROTOPOD for a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code ROTOPOD for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. It's Prize Picks. All right, Ted. I'm looking at Uncle Ted. Fred. Fred. Let's look at the Braves. They've got 4 guys in a row. I mean, it shows 2 things. One, that they've been collectively slumping, and 2, they have a lot of guys drafted in the first 3 rounds. So Matt Olson, Austin Riley, who's banged up, not in the lineup again today, Ozzie Albies, who had a trip to the IL, and Michael Harris, all in a row, kind of there as being kind of all disappointers. And then Acuna at the top, if you want to add him too.
Yes, I didn't put Acuna in because he's been a $20 player on the earned auction value calculator. But
it's all those 14 stolen bases from early this season.
And for a #1 pick overall at this point, actually $20 players, I could argue that him at 20 is about as disappointing as Yordan at 12.
Yeah, probably so.
For first overall, to the back end of the first round, $8 difference. Like you're probably even looking for better than that. So.
And the last few days, Acuna showed some signs of more pop in his bat too. So
most of the Braves lineup has been disappointing.
Yes, it has.
Is there a takeaway
there? They've played in some bad weather, but that hasn't stopped Marcell Ozuna. So I mean that excuse kind of rings hollow, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's about the only one. My one takeaway I thought about is, like just buying high. So last year as a team, the Braves finished with an OPS that was 50 points better than the second place Dodgers. Like that's that gap of 50 points. It was like the same as like the Dodgers down to like the middle of the league, like the mid pack of the league. Like it was a 50-point gap is a huge gap. So like there was 2 ways to look at that. One is this Braves lineup is godlike and it's going to just dominate baseball for years. These long-term contracts and all this talent and everything. And that's kind of how we collectively looked at it. The other way to look at it would be teams don't beat the competition by 50 OPS points year after year. Like just things are like, it's just not going to repeat itself. Like there's going to be regression in the Braves lineup, which has happened. Yeah. So it's figuring out, I mean, you can't just lump all the players together, but it's figuring out, I wonder looking back, like was some of this regression to be expected?
Right. Well, I just traded for Matt Olson. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is here. It says, I think you should go after Matt Olson right now. He had an absolute rocket yesterday in the first game of the doubleheader. Just complete no doubter. I think he had some other damage, in that game and then the day before as well. I think he went over in the second game though. Looking at Matt Olson, just generally speaking this year, first of all, not just this year, but generally speaking, he's a streak and slump sort of guy. His performance fluctuates wildly as it is. So to expect to come down off of last year is probably the most likely thing to happen. K percentage this year, 26.7%. It's higher than it was last year. It was 23.2 last year. Walking a little less, hitting with a handful fewer barrels, but that's creeping back upward too. I think Matt Olson's going to be all right, especially as the weather heats up. I don't really see a big concern with him.
I agree. I think he'll come around. He is interesting. If you look at his career path, guys rarely do this as well as Olson, but he's alternated good and bad years perfectly. So if you go back to 2017, it's the first year he played He played 59 games. That's a first year played a good amount. His OPSs go 1,000. I'm just going to round them off: 1,000, 800, then 800, then 900, then 700, then back to 900, then down to 800, then up to 1,000, and now down to 700. Like, he has perfectly alternated having an OPS of like 800 or worse with having an OPS around 900 or better every other year. And this is the down year. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you're right about the streakiness. Like, he has not yet put together 2 straight years with an OPS around 900, but he does it every other year.
Yeah, he kind of does. Yet I still think he kind of breaks that. He doesn't have he's not going to approach last year, but I think he's going to be much better the rest of the way.
I felt like he was a super safe, like late first, early second round pick, just in the sense of, even like, he could regress 15 homers from last year and 15 or 20 batting average points and still in that lineup drive in and score 100 runs. Like, I felt like he was super safe in that regard. But what we didn't see coming is him regressing and most of the guys around him in the lineup progressing.
Austin Riley in particular, 3 homers so far. He's missed, I think, the last 9 games now because he's not in the lineup for tonight's game against the Cubs. You know, this all happened before the injury. I think that's the thing we have to kind of remind people. It's not just like, okay, he's hurt, and that's what it kind of hurt his performance. Unless he was playing through something during that whole time, like against the Mets, for instance, there. But his last homer was on May 3rd, you know, and his previous homer before that, he had to go all the way back to April 7th. He had 2 in like the first 8 days and then 1 since then the rest of the year.
Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out like reasons for optimism / reasons for pessimism with him. This one I find really tricky as to figure out why he's not hitting for power. And StatCast says he should be hitting for a little more power, but still significantly less power than he had in the previous 3 seasons. But his average exit velocity is the same. His max exit velocity is the same. His barrel rate's basically the same. His hard hit rate's the same. His fly ball rate's the same. His pulled rate's down a bit. It's basically the same. This one's a tricky one. Like, usually something jumps out. Strikeout rate's the same. Walk rate's the same.
Yeah. Usually something jumps out. His BABIP's the same as other years, but he's not getting on base as much. This is a tricky one. It's hard for me to make as good of a case to buy low on Riley, except for the fact that, and sometimes this is the case, like, there's just no reason to think, unless this injury was plaguing him, like you said. Right.
But they still haven't put him on the IL.
9 days, and he hasn't been on, as PJ points
right.
on.
So they obviously don't think, and the Braves are destined to make the playoffs. Like, there's no chance almost that the Braves miss the playoffs, in my opinion. Whether they win the division or not, we'll see. But like, it's not like squeezing every single game out of Austin Riley matters that much to them. Like, he's 27. He had hit 33 or more homers 3 years in a row. He'd hit over 270 3 years in a row, and not much has really changed this season. So this is
hitting slightly more fly balls, and they're not going as far, basically,
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of that's a story of baseball, by the way.
Yeah. His home. Oh, it is. Yeah. I put that in our show notes that the home run rate's down, but the home run rate's down slightly, and his home run rate's down tremendously. His home run to fly ball rate is down so much.
Well, maybe Atlanta is storing their balls in a better, more significant humidor. They need to turn that dial down a notch there. I think it was who was it? Jason Collette was pointing this out on the Sirius XM show today with Waylon and me, that there were a lot more homers yesterday. Maybe they'll change the settings on their humidors. The storage might be different. Who knows? Maybe Atlanta had so many pitching problems last year, so they wanted that. I don't know. Does the team have any control over what the humidor settings are?
I assume no, but
I would assume yes. Because didn't Colorado and Arizona kind of do that to save their pitchers?
Yeah. Did they do that without league approval?
I
don't know.
I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. That's been like this black box all along.
Yep.
I remember, was it 2 years ago, John Shambi was doing a Cubs game, and he talked about there's 6 new humidors this year. And like, what? Like, that was like news. Like, no, I hadn't seen that anywhere.
Yep.
So what are we doing with these guys? Let's talk about all these Braves. You know, I mean, it's easy to say buy low on all these guys, but In the case of Matt Olson, I did buy it as part of a keeper league deal. So it's a little bit different. But I think it can be done but it's got to be, my league was a little bit different because it's it involves Spencer Strider, for crying out loud. Yeah, I can get a lot done when you trade away Spencer Strider on his cheap contract, but in a redraft league, it's hard to pull that off.
It is. I thought one interesting plan, if your team is floundering, would be to try to buy low on multiple Braves and then hope that their offense just catches fire in the summer. The problem is all these guys are so valued. Like, if your team isn't doing great, you probably don't have the ammunition in a trade to buy low on, say, Austin Riley and Michael Harris in separate trades. Like, you probably can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise your team would be doing really well.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it would be a cool strategy. Maybe that would be a fun strategy if your team is doing well and you really wanted to go out on a limb, is try to buy low on multiple great Braves. But I don't see anyone having the guts to do that, right? Like, maybe you can make a trade where you trade Gunnar Henderson for one of these Braves plus more.
And who has multiple of them in a redraft league? If they're all going,
they have to be separate trades. You'd have to, like I said, like, I'm going to trade you Gunnar Henderson for Austin Riley and another guy. And then also from my roster, I'm going to trade you Tarek Skubal for Michael Harris and another guy. And I'm going to play that these Braves are going to bounce back. But it would be a really special mix of a team.
I got to think of the slumping Braves, Harris is probably the easiest to acquire.
Agreed. The least track record. He's the person you can most sell the other owner that, like, maybe he's not really that good. Like, last season with Harris was really, like, he's been up and down in his career, in a different way than Olson, like up and down to the point where he wasn't even playable at times. So, I think, right, like at the beginning of last season, like last April, Michael Harris hit 190 and in May hit 167, and there was legitimately people dropping him in leagues.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden everything found its level. So, right. He'd be the easiest to acquire for sure, but I think by a lot.
And here, I'll give you some what constitutes buying low on Michael Harris. Yahoo, obviously, they have their if you're in a Yahoo league, that you can see like the trade market. Michael Harris has gone straight up for Tyler O'Neill and Grayson Rodriguez in trades that happened today. So just as two examples there, and I always like just looking at the straight up deals because usually everything else has other considerations in mind. Tyler O'Neill's got so many more homers, obviously, and he went well later than Michael Harris. That is the definition of buying low and selling high right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I would take Michael Harris. So there's a type of deal that you could try to make.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other Harris type of deal, the Grayson Rodriguez one, regardless of getting into the value of the two players, just that there's a lot of pitchers who have done quite well to start the season because scoring's down in baseball. So taking if your pitching's off to a good start, taking one of your pitchers and trying to find a possibly undervalued hitter, a hitter who's a buy low, that's a really fun plan.
Yep. And a lot of times I see a question like, why trade a hitter for hitter? Sometimes it's a challenge trade. Some people are just sick of the player and trying to get as much as they can for him. So that's why you would do it. And other people are like, hey, I've been lucky that Tyler O'Neill has been healthy so far, absent the concussion. I better sell him while I can. Ooh, I can get Michael Harris for it. Yeah, I would do that. Yep. I think that's why you do that. It happens all the times. That you do that there. There's plenty of motivations. It's not always filling a need. Sometimes it really is truly trying to time the market on a player.
Yes, absolutely. And I could name all kinds of, like, could you trade Alec Baum in some leagues for one of these Braves? He's hitting 330. His average is going down. I would gladly trade him for any of these Braves. I don't think you probably can. I don't think he's done quite enough, but there's so many. I think, was it you and Scott who were talking about Imanaga as a possible trade? I forget I think it was listening to you guys. You're talking about him as a possible trade. Could someone trade like a doing incredibly well, but no track record pitcher like him for an established hitter?
Yeah.
Right. To someone who needs pitching. So, yeah. Anyways, that's the fun of the trade market, like to get out and make some of these offers.
Yeah. And by the way, if maybe Yahoo isn't the best because it could be a lot of free leagues. They're not always free, by the way. Sometimes they just run their league on, like I have a league where we have $100 entry fee, but we run it on Yahoo. Yeah. We do the collections on the side. So all the deals there are legit. They happen, but and that's, I feel like that's a representative of your average league. It's not an expert league. It's not a sub-expert league. It's an average league. But you know what? feel free to come up with other examples of what you think is a good buy low for these players. I'd like to see them in there. Because if you're in the chat right now, please let us know what you think. And we'll read some of them there too, or trades that have happened in your league, if they have happened like that. So love to see them there. Let's talk a little bit about our next set of players. But before we do that, quick note from our sponsors on the Blue Wire Network. Thank you, Blue Wire. All right, let's look at our next players on our board here. Guy leading off the game right now as we speak, Francisco Lindor, ADP of 29. Don't I know that acutely? I drafted him at pick 30 in the NFBC and watch Gunnar Henderson kill me every single day for that. There, let's talk about Francisco Lindor. What are your thoughts on him?
I think he's in my article going out on Yahoo tomorrow. I love him as a buy low. If you look at the StatCast data, like he's one of has some of the biggest gaps of any player between his actual stats and his expected stats. He's been really BABIP to death. His BABIP's 195. He's still contributing power and speed. Like he's on pace, not for the 30-30 season he had last year, but he's on pace for a 20-20 season. And as he collects a few more base hits, the steals will probably go up. So I think he's a perfect buy low. And for you in your league, like I think he's going to come around.
Yeah, and that's where he's a no action player. Just going to keep rolling with him. I have no choice but to keep rolling with him there. But we'll see. He's going up against Xavier Curry. He's already 0-2. Now he's 1-2, but I won't be doing play-by-play. But yeah, he actually, Lindor has had his games here and there. He had that Giants game where he had 2 homers. According to the earned auction value tool, the 7 homers and 6 stolen bases and the counting stats in the 20s have made him at least be a positive value player. It's just the 193 batting average is a total killer.
That's right. And that's in my article. I mentioned that's the reason why, especially to me, why he's a buy low option is because people get so turned off when they see a sub 200 batting average. Yeah. So like it does something to all of our brains. When you see sub 200, you're like, oh my sub 200. Wow. Like this guy's been atrocious. But when you, like you said, when you look past that, there's a 2020 player there who just needs some more base hits. So that's what I think is, especially while that average is so low, I would be going after him.
Well, especially when my whole team is hitting 233. I mean, that's it hits a little bit more when my team's not hitting well too.
How about this one? Corbin Carroll or Francisco Lindor? The batting averages are almost the same. The steals are very similar. Lindor's got more power so far this year and a more track record. Carroll was obviously drafted a lot higher.
Yeah, he was.
I think I would take Lindor.
Yeah, I'm divided on that one. I'm not quite sure how I'd answer that there. I have to dig into like the StatCast data a little bit there, but I think you're probably right. I think I probably would too, because
I might offer that one out in labor. I don't know if I have room. I need outfielders in labor so bad that if I traded Carroll, I probably need an outfielder, but I might offer that one out. That's a really fun trade. My problem for your problem kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, you got to go find the Lindor manager in labor. Make sure it's not me. It might be me. No, I don't have him. I have Witt in that league, so I'm good at shortstop. Yay. Yeah.
I'd make that trade too. So think about it.
Oh, I bet you would. I bet you would. That will not be happening.
Great. No, it will not. No.
That will not be happening. All right, next player on our list. Could do a whole press conference. Oh, wait, that did happen this week.
It did happen, except nothing happened in the press conference. Just like when they bat.
Nothing happened. Nothing happens ever. Just they ask for patience. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the flashpoint for the slumping Jays, but he's not the only one. George Springer has been terrible. It's just you paid a lower price for him at least. But okay, Vladdy, I think everyone was quick to point out last year that Vladdy had a really great hard hit rate, but it doesn't matter if he's hitting it hard into the ground all the time.
That's right. So, and that seems to be what's happening this year. Although, again, just like last year, StatCast is saying that his slug should be way higher. So they're saying that like there's a lot of things up this year. The exit velocity is up, but as you just alluded to, the fly ball rate is way down, even down from not. This is his worst fly ball rate, and he never has a good fly ball rate. It's his best line drive rate, so it explains why he's hitting for average and why he's projected to hit for average. So congratulations if you drafted Vladdy on the 2-3 turn. You've got an awesome singles hitter.
Average launch angle 6.7%.
Yeah. So this is what you have right now. Like
6.7 degrees, excuse me.
Yeah. You have a guy who's on pace for about 15 home runs, doesn't steal bases. You've got like a really good singles hitter.
Yeah.
Or actually, not even. You've got a pretty good
not
singles
even.
hitter. Yeah.
Because
He's
he's
hitting
not
286
fast.
now. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Sprint
Yeah.
speed's low. So why would you want a singles hitter from him? I mean,
And when this is a team-wide problem,
mhm.
like the press conference with Ross Atkins was bizarre. Like to even have the press conference, but then to come out and not say anything, and like he came out to almost explain why the Jays aren't hitting, but then didn't explain at all why the Jays aren't hitting. Like he was kind of just like, we don't really know. We're just going to we believe. It was more like we believe in our process. We're going to keep working at it.
Yeah.
So it was like,
give us patience, for
like,
what? We're going to get it
like,
fixed. How?
Like you don't really need to say, you don't need a whole press conference to say that. That could just be one quote you send out. Like, we believe in our process and we're going to stick with it. But like none of them are hitting for power except Danny Jansen, and Dalton Varsho. No one else is hitting for power. Like Vladdy's not hitting for power. Bichette's come back to being a singles hitter in the last couple of weeks, but that's it. George Springer's not hitting at all. So yeah, there's a tremendous lack of power on the Blue Jays. And because it's team wide, I'm a little more skeptical that I don't know. That's foolish, but because it's team wide, I'm skeptical that it's going to turn around soon.
Yeah. I get you. I get it on that. Who are you more optimistic about? Vladimir Guerrero Jr. starting to hit for power, or Bo Bichette starting to do more things?
Vladdy. Bichette's power already really toggles the line. So I don't know. Bichette, I just don't view Bichette as that powerful in the first place. Like he just squeaked to 20 homers last year. So like Vladdy was more powerful than Bichette. So I guess I got a little more faith of him getting back to it, but I don't have great faith in either one of them. Like why do we think that the Jays are going to turn around Vladdy's propensity for not hitting fly balls? I know that sentence was awkward, but why do we think that they're going to turn that around? They haven't been able to turn around his whole career.
Right. They need to bring in the Rays hitting coaches that taught Yandy Diaz to get some elevation, but it even wasn't that much elevation. But
right.
Yeah.
This just doesn't, it's just not changing. So, and then the fact that baseballs aren't flying out so far this year, I don't think Vladdy's going to finish the year with 15 homers like he's on pace for right now, but I think he might finish the year with 20 or 22. That's really bad for a guy you took around the 2-3 turn.
Davis Schneider has one more homer than Vladdy. We should have him work with Vladdy. I don't know. The thing that bothers me too is they the bat speed supports their lack of power. They're really they're 26th in baseball, I think, in collective bat speed. I mean, I know that's we're still learning more about that stat and all that, but they're yeah, we know about that. Well, what are you doing about it?
Right. Right. So the one thing I'll say about Vladdy and Bichette, if you want a little bit of optimism, the Jays have played a pretty tough schedule so far. The next 2 weeks, they go White Sox, Tigers, although the Tigers can pitch a bit, but they go White Sox, Tigers, White Sox, Pirates. Yeah. So at least, if the Jays are going to turn their season around, this is the 2 weeks probably to climb at least back to 500.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
We'll see. I also think that on a non-fantasy concept, although maybe this would be good for both of these players in fantasy, the Jays are at Fisher cut bait time with both of these players. As far as their time from free agency, we're hitting the point where this coming off season, they need to extend them or they need to trade them.
Yeah.
So that window opens really this year. If the Jays are out of the race in July, you can start thinking about, are we going to trade or sign Guerrero and Bichette in the offseason? And if we're trading, would we trade them in the summer?
That's wow. This generation is passing of Blue Jays players.
It is. They're hitting for like I said, they're not that far from free agency. They're gonna want sizable contracts. If they're not hitting for power in July, I don't know how you give them those sizable contracts at that point. But so at that point, I don't know. I think the Jays will sit on their hands till the offseason. Just more options at that point. But by the offseason, you have to either trade these guys or sign them. And I don't know what you do if Bichette finishes the year with 15 homers and Vladdy with 22.
Fred, I got it. I think they're measuring in kilometers per hour instead of miles per hour. And they think that they're okay.
That's it. The whole time I was on my rant about the Blue Jays trading them, you were like, how am I going to line up this kilometer?
A metric system joke.
Kilometers,
must make metric
miles,
system joke.
1.6.
Talking about the bat speed, Teddy J says bat speed's down because pitchers are throwing more off speed. It's confusing hitters. They slow their bat to chase and make contact. Okay, but why isn't that true for every single team in baseball? Why is it more
Right.
true for the Jays than others?
Right.
Are the Jays facing a disproportionate amount of breaking balls? I think that's a league-wide trend, not a Jays trend.
Yes, for sure. It is more down for the Jays, and the Jays offense was disappointing last year. It's just gone even lower.
Yeah.
Like they were disappointing last year, and their whole stance in the offseason was, if we just leave it alone, it'll get better. Well, they left it alone, and it got worse.
Yeah, funny how just leaving it alone didn't make it get better. That's
like
weird.
That was their whole thing, is positive regression. I get it. We do that in fantasy all the time, where sometimes you're just like, nope. We just talked about that with a bunch of players, Francisco Lindor, a bunch of players. Positive regression will happen.
Mm-hmm.
The Jays were like, yeah, as a group, we expect positive regression, and they haven't got it. They've gotten the opposite.
Did they try poking it with a stick? Wait for it to do something? I don't know.
I don't know. That's I think not poking with the sticks is the problem here.
Yeah.
So they keep poking out the sticks too slow, apparently, and nothing ever happens.
Exactly.
But they're playing the White Sox, and they scored 9 runs yesterday. Maybe it'll all be solved this week.
All's good. Nothing to see here.
Except it was all Danny Jansen, just like always.
Yeah. Another hit. I'm going to do one more hitter, then we'll start hit. We got 3 pitchers on our list. I think it is noteworthy. We have a lot of hitters, and we didn't even mention Pete Alonso, who kind of qualifies as that too. But
yeah, he was close. Yeah.
By the way, Pete Alonso is going to maybe get traded, is what I'm starting to see, which, he's got contract considerations and all that. Everything's kind of hanging over this team. Corey Seager. I kind of view this as he had a delayed start to the season sort of thing. Corey Seager's got 6 homers. He's hitting 247. Had that monster year last year, but I think we all knew he wasn't going to hit, he wasn't going to hit 327 like he did last year, but certainly this is also a disappointment. Kind of goes along with everything else that's going on with the Rangers. Evan Carter's been a disappointment. The only guy that really hasn't disappointed is Semien. Adolis Garcia too has been fine, but Seager, is this just like a slow recovery from injury? Is this like a little bit of regression, or is there something else going on here?
Yeah, I didn't get his normal spring training. I'm a little less, because of that, of all the things you just mentioned, I'm a little less excited to buy low on Seager, even though he was so awesome last year. Like, I'm a little less excited to buy low on Seager maybe than some of the other players that we've talked about. And we've seen Seager go through some things, sometimes injury related, miss chunks of seasons, have seasons where he didn't hit for as much. Like, he didn't really hit for power until a couple years ago. And then all of a sudden it came, like, he basically doubled his homer total year over year. But I think I'm going to chalk it up to just poor preparatory, phase to the season because of the injury. That's all I got. What do you think? Do you got anything other than that? His stats mostly look like, actually, like his stats outside of they mostly look at like his previous years, but not last year. Last year looks like the outlier. Like last year.
Well, he's a kind of a solid every other year guy. I actually think
a little bit.
I thought 2022 was the outlier. I mean, 915, 943 OPS in 21 and 20. 818. You have to go back to 2018 for his last sub 800 OPS. I feel like this is one gigantic outlier year. Maybe, yeah, but will it? But for fantasy purposes, like, is it going to correct itself soon? Thereby, you should buy low on him. Yeah, it's tricky because Seager, you're never going to get stolen bases.
Seager or Lindor. How about that?
Ooh,
they went right around each other at the draft.
Before
actually, before Seager got hurt, Seager was going a little earlier.
Right. Then he was going way after. He was going 20 picks after.
So
I probably say no only because I need bags, but
wait, no to who? Oh, sorry. You'd rather
I'd probably keep Lindor. But it's close.
The cop-out answer is obviously whether I need steals or not, right? Yeah. Like, Seager will probably hit for a better average than Lindor. The rest of the way, the power will be similar. So it's whether you want the average.
Power might even be better too. I think if I'm even average in stolen bases, then I do this deal. Then I go and get Seager. I think the team
power will be better. I think it's like I don't want to sell Lindor short on power. Like, he's got 4 in his career. He's got 4 30 homer seasons.
Well, here's the other reason why though too is, we mentioned briefly Alonso maybe getting dealt. Now, the Mets could be torn apart, but Lindor I don't think is going anywhere. I think he's going to be harder to trade. as in real life.
Yep.
Whereas Texas, they're disappointing, but they're 24-24.
Yep.
They're only a couple of games out, and they're getting all these pitchers back. They're going to go for it. They're going to try to win, whereas the Mets aren't guaranteed to be doing that. So the lineup around Lindor could get worse too over time. So, even if he wakes up a little bit more, you might not see any fantasy goodness come out of that. So I think I would try to trade for Seager. I think I would trade Lindor for Seager if given the chance.
All right. Maybe I should be offering my Corbin Carroll for Seager. Forget Lindor. I'll go for Seager.
Maybe
that's my offer. I got a sense of Corbin Carroll offers tonight.
Yes, you do. Go for it, man.
You're right. You raise a good point on the Mets. The Mets are teetering in the wild card race right now. There's the last wild card team in the NL is exactly 500. The Mets are a few games below 500, but yeah, they definitely, because the Mets aren't really geared towards this year and Alonso being a free agent, like they definitely need to rally.
Right. I mean, they will get Francisco Alvarez back at some point in time. That will help.
Yeah.
But I mean, and Senga back too.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm too quick on the draw for that too. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I could see the Mets trading Alonso though. I agree. Especially if they're just competing for the last wild card spot. I don't know. Especially they're going to spend. So if I could see them saying, you know what, let's get some prospects for Alonso and we'll spend in the off season.
Yeah.
Like we're not selling off and giving up. We're just getting ready for a big run next year.
Exactly.
Instead of trying to be the last wild card team.
Yeah. Let's look at some pitchers here. We're not including Garrett Cole, who got hurt way early in spring training. We're not including Spencer Strider or anybody that's hurt right now. Trey Turner, we're not including here. Trying to kind of just eliminate those. But one guy that was kind of hurt at draft day was Kevin Gausman. And he's even had a couple of decent outings. But I jinxed the hell out of him one time when he was about to pitch against the Twins. It looked like he had righted the ship. Ks were down, but the results were still good. 4 starts in a row, and the Twins just destroyed him. What do you think of Kevin Gausman going forward?
Yeah, really frustrating. I mean, all the advanced stats say that Kevin Gausman should have been much better than this. Like you say, especially because he's got the 2 disastrous outings. And then other than that, he's actually been he's got 3 disastrous innings. That's a lot of disastrous innings out of 9. Anyways, his FIP's 342. Like his strikeout to walk is 43-11, which is not fully Gausman-like, but pretty close. So, he's dealt with a 372 BABIP, although he's always struggled. He's always given up a high BABIP. That's always been a problem with him. But he should be better than this. I think he is a buy low. I'm not buying low, like paying full value. He has been a real fantasy killer this year because of the fact that there aren't other pitchers on this list. I could have if I had waited one more day, I would have put Pablo Lopez on it. He's been a $4 on the earned auction value, but a lot of that came from last night, and I had generated this list yesterday afternoon, so he could be on it. But what I'm saying is, in the first 3 rounds, most people took their ace. Most of those aces are doing fine. If you took Kevin Gausman as your ace, that's put you way behind because of the fact that most people's aces are doing fine. Same with Pablo Lopez. When the other guy took George Kirby or Zach Wheeler or Corbin Burns, like that put you in a big hole. You could actually absorb one of these hitters because by math, most people have one of these hitters. Some lucky guys don't, but most people have one of these hitters because we're naming basically a round worth of hitters in the first 3 rounds of drafts. So, but the pitcher, that's been a tough one. Like you've had to battle back from that.
Yeah, and you're right. It's an opportunity cost thing, and it's also, as pointed out by Teddy in the chat room, nobody's buying low on a struggling pitcher. It's really hard. Like I feel like, I mean, it probably can be done, but it's a lot lower. You're probably getting a lot less than you think if you're trying to sell. If you're trying to do a buy low, sell high deal there, or you're trying to even like get what you can for them there. Whereas a struggling hitter, you always get people like me. Oh yeah, go after Matt Olson. Go after Corey Seager. Not too many people are like, oh yeah, get a declining velocity Kevin Gausman and his disappearing strikeout rate. You could. I mean, it's harder to pull that off. I mean, I guess as a positive, he bounced back from the Minnesota start with a cromulent start against the Rays. Got 6 strikeouts at least. But I mean, that's kind of grasping at straws.
Yeah, I watched the race start. Like he didn't give up any runs till the 6th inning. Like it felt better than cromulent until it wasn't. all of a sudden.
The problem is, though, you need your starters to go 6 or 7, though.
I
You
know.
can't just say, well, he
And
was
that's what he
left in
usually
too
does.
long.
I know. Especially the reason that you can't, to follow up on the point you just made, the reason this year especially you can't buy low on, or people aren't trying to buy low on poor starters, is that there's so many starters who have pitched well. So if you're like, I need to improve my pitching, why would people turn and be like, well, I'll take a chance on Kevin Gausman when you can just go out and trade for Sonny Gray or Imanaga or Ranger Suarez, or like there's so many guys that you can, Tanner Houck, there's so many guys who have really low ratios, Chris Sale, and probably don't really cost any more than Kevin Gausman on the trade market right now. Those would be really fun trades if you want to make a challenge trade. If you have a starter who's going off, would you trade him in a 1-for-1 for, like, would you trade Imanaga for Kevin Gausman? Like, that deal seems completely far-fetched in draft season.
Yeah, it does.
Would you trade Chris Sale for him? Would you trade Cutter Crawford's having a really nice year so far? I don't know.
Jared Jones, because they might shut him down or something like that.
Luis Gill from the Yankees. Great strikeout rate.
Heel.
Sorry. Great strikeout rate. Would you trade him? Like, if you have some of these pitchers who are doing really well, would you trade them for Gausman? And if you had Gausman, would you get out of the Gausman business? Would you trade Gausman if you had him for Sonny Gray and say, forget it, I'm just out of the Gausman business, I'll just take Sonny Gray?
Yeah.
Those are interesting challenge trades.
They are, and most of them won't get done, I bet. Again, we can look at Yahoo, and we know the downside to doing that, but it's there. At least there's some deals being dealt there. We can see that. Let's finish off with some closers. And these are tricky too, closers, because at least if they have the role, at least you've got that going. But they can lose money for you, but still, at least they're going to get the saves eventually. But in one case, Edwin Diaz, he's temporarily at least not getting them.
Yeah, so I mentioned in our notes that the good thing about closers this year is that most of the closers that people spent on still have their jobs. Edwin Diaz doesn't, kind of does. They haven't fully removed him, but they're kind of taking a break from him. Just like the Orioles did from Kimbrel, who's now kind of back in the role. Had some good clean outings. Now he's back in the role. The problem with closers is that I named 5, especially 2, Hader and Diaz, who have been true one category contributors, and not even great one category contributors, and they were 3rd round picks. Like Diaz 5 saves, Hader 11. They both have ratios that are hurting you. They've been true one category guys, and I could throw in there David Bednar, Jordan Romano, some other relievers who have, because of their ratios, have just been one category contributors. So those ones, Alexis Diaz. So those ones have all been really poor investments. But in general, the closers are holding their jobs. Like, we haven't seen this flurry of these guys lose their jobs. They haven't helped you like we hoped they would. Right. I think Josh Hader, Diaz, I'm not sure because of the role uncertainty right now. Like, Josh Hader, I think by the end of the year will probably be okay.
I'm not worried about Hader.
Disappointing though. I don't think you're going to get what you wanted from Hader.
Hader's had 2 bad outings, basically.
Yep.
Maybe 3.
Yep. And his team hasn't played as well as we hoped.
But they're playing better now.
Absolutely.
And even with like those bad outings, he's still at 450, 120, and he's still giving you 31 strikeouts in those 20 innings. So he's not even killing you in strikeouts there.
Yeah.
I'll go one step farther too. I think, I think he's been fantastic. I would definitely try to target Hader if you can. Try, certainly if you're in a, any sort of like keeper league, sort of in a go for it trade there, before his manager gets the benefit of this turnout there. Yeah, I would go do that. Like if I had Mason Miller, I'd trade Mason Miller for Hader so quick it would make your head spin. But I don't think the Hader manager will do that. So you're more looking at.
That's an interesting one though. The strikeouts are so high with Miller. I think you could try to make it.
Okay.
Like I think it gets you in the discussion. And then in some leagues, I don't think people are frustrated enough with Hader that you could trade like Raisel Iglesias or someone for him. But honestly, his ratios are way better. He's got way more saves. In some leagues, people might say, "Forget it. I'm sick of this Hader guy. I'll give it a shot." Yeah. Like we're not talking NFBC owners here. They don't make trades anyways.
Right. By the way, really good article in ESPN.com today with from Buster Olney about Hader and how he had a clause in there.
Yeah, I read it.
In reaction to getting screwed over in arbitration. I became a lot more sympathetic to Hader after that. It's like, yeah, if teams are going to use you in these, and I was doing air quotes and then couldn't get the thing within the air quotes, but if they're going to use you optimally and not always save you for save situations and use you all over the place and then hold it against you in arbitration, yeah, that's garbage. I mean, that's terrible. Use it to suppress your salary. That's terrible. Especially because relievers do burn out quickly. And so haters like, okay, you're not going to pitch me on 3 days in a row. You're not going to pitch me in non-save situations like that. Because this is how it goes. So yeah, I think it's one of those really troubling things that to have to deal with there. Mason Miller, by the way, he hasn't had a save since April 30th. He hasn't had a save chance since April 30th. He's pitched like 4 times in the month of May, and one of those was Sunday. He's just, with the A's slumping again, he barely gets to pitch.
I think it's a really cool trade offer. Like, he has 38 strikeouts already,
yeah.
a whip of 0.62, an ERA under 1. I think it's a really fun trade just to offer someone him for Hader and say, hey, Hader's got fewer saves and he hasn't pitched nearly as well. And like, I think it would get you in the door. I think it would be that would be a good starter and see if the other owner is frustrated with Hader or not. Again, some expert leagues, people are gonna be like, no, come on, it's Josh Hader. But in some leagues, people might be like, yeah, whatever, this Mason Miller guy's special. I'll take a chance. I'll make a trade. It's definitely worth a conversation.
Miller has 2 more saves than Hader after all this said and done.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm snap call if I would, and if I'm trying to win this year, like if it's a keeper league, okay, fine, maybe it's a little bit different, but just realize that Miller has a good chance of getting shut down later this year. He might get dealt. Who knows what happens? There's a lot more uncertainty based on him, and his team is going to be terrible.
Absolutely. So I think what we can summarize everything you've just said by saying, don't be a hater.
Oh, wow, Fred. I'm so proud of you.
I read the article today, and that's what I thought while I was reading it. I was like,
you got me back for the metric system.
I like him more. I'm not a hater anymore.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Yeah. I like it a lot. All right, very good. That's going to wrap up our list. We'll do news and notes next time. I don't think we need to do that. And read the website, rotowire.com/pod. Nico Horner's in the lineup. Spencer Steer is not. Austin Riley is not, if you're looking for like day-to-day news and things of that nature, though, but you can check it all out. Rotowire.com, so it gives you a free trial. No credit card is required. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for everybody for the active comments in there. If you did like this, please hit that like button. Please subscribe and give us feedback in wherever you can and wherever you get your podcast. We really do truly appreciate it there. And check out our trial at RotoWire, rotowire.com/pod. James will be with you tomorrow. Fred and I will be back at you again next week. Thanks for listening. Take care.